Welcome to this workshop. We are going to be looking at aspects of Newfoundland and Labrador's natural history through the eyes of our visual artists and explore it through watercolor painting. At the outset, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Charlotte Jones, and I'm a local visual artist. And I would like to thank the Rotary Arts Centre for putting together these workshops, Whitney and French and Brad Randall, the Red Cross for funding the workshops, and the Corner Brook Museum and Archives for lending us the red fox that we'll be painting in the next session. Okay, so by now you will have received the lesson plan, and hopefully you'll have visited some websites of for Western Newfoundland artists. I recommended these four, first of all, because we're not going to be doing in this first session, when we do our landscape painting, it's not detail-oriented. We just want to identify the main shapes of the landscape. Jane Ray, in particular, who's a Corner Brook visual artist, her paintings, I think, really exemplify this approach to the landscape. So, by now, you'll have your watercolor set, some salt, your 2 cups of water, a big brush and a small brush, and a pencil, and your masking tape. So let's start off by taping down our paper. The reason why we do this is with watercolor paper that isn't super heavy, it tends to buckle. So if we tape it down, it won't buckle too much. So you're wanting, it also is a way of having nice, even margins. So place your masking tape like that, and then a second piece, so you have a wider margin. All right. So now what we're going to do is, as I said, we're not making a photograph. We're just getting the general impression, the shapes of a landscape. And the landscape that I have in mind is the lookout when you go up the Trans-Canada Highway and are about to turn off to the Lewin Parkway. If you look out, you'll see a hill this way and a hill this way and a little bit of water, and then you can see the hills over across the Bay of Islands. So if you can envision that in your mind's eye, let's move ahead with that. what I'd like you to do is give yourself a guidelines, but no more than 5 guidelines. I'm going to use 4, like this. Okay, so here's one hill. There's the hill across the way. Here are the hills across the bay. There you have it. So 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. So I'll give you a sec to do that. So if you have a scrap piece of paper, you can try out your color on that to make sure you get the color as dark as you want or as light as you want. So for this first step, we'll just do it step by step. You should have your paper towel handy. And I think the cerulean blue would be a good color. Actually, cerulean comes from, I think, the Latin for sky, as a matter of fact. So that's the second from the top in your pan on the left-hand side. So what you're going to do is start off at the top of the sky with a fairly dark blue. And then it can be lighter as you go down. And even lighter. And while it's still wet, you're going to grab your paper towel and make some clouds. So with your smaller brush, I would use the pewter, which is the one that's right beside the cerulean, and we will make some shadows on the clouds. Actually, just to give them some definition, make them a bit more 3D. So we'll put it just along the bottom like that. You'll also notice that I'm not scrubbing the paper. You just work lightly with the watercolor. So now let's go on to the hills. When you see something that's far away, its color appears lighter and becomes more intense the closer the object gets to you. So we're going to start with the hills on the Bay of Islands, and we're going to make them a light gray. And the hill that's second furthest away, we'll have it a medium gray, and then this hill quite dark. But let's start with the hill that's farthest away. So for this, you'll need your, you could either use your black kind of dilute, which is at the top, or the pewter. Use your black. So you'll need your black and salt. So I'm mixing light gray for here. Just add a bit of water. And while it's still wet, you're going to drop some salt into it. So now on this hill, we'll use a darker gray. And drop some salt on it. And then go on to the hill that's closest with an even darker gray. And for fun, we can drop a bit of green into it. Because we do have some evergreens here. And some more salt. So you see what's happening is the salt is crystallizing and kind of gives you a bit of an impression of snow on the hills. Now, let's do the water. And for that, I'd recommend using the teal color. And we'll do the opposite of what we did with the sky, where we had a fairly intense color at the top, and then it got lighter and lighter. Okay, and there we go. So in your packages, you will have extra watercolor paper. So between this activity and the next activity, it would be great if you could try a landscape that you can see out your window, for example, or a favorite landscape.